Hey peeps, and welcome back to Fallout. In today's episode, we'll be attacking and destroying the military base. First we're going to dismiss Dogmeat. It's doable in this section to keep him alive, but it's too much of a pain in the ass, so it's much easier to just leave him here knowing that he'll be safe in this cave. On our first visit, we're going to stay on the outskirts. This is so that we can complete the Brotherhood of Steel's mission to scout the base out. Okay, with our flyby complete, let's head back to the Brotherhood and convince the elders to attack the base. Normally, during this part of the game, you don't really need to worry too much about timing. That is, if you don't care about the necropolis at all, because the mutants do attack the necropolis at some point and destroy it. I've wasted too much time with operations and such, so in all likelihood that's already happened. And because of the setting I chose in Fallout Fix-It, if I procrastinate too long, they will attack and destroy other settlements as well. I'm not too worried about this, since we're probably going to finish the game well in advance of that. First we give our report to General Maxon, and then we use our speed skill to convince the rest of the elders to attack the base. They send a small delegation of 3 paladins with you in order to assault the base.
What do you got? Finally. Well, this'll get the elders off their butts. We'll fortify the fortress and surprise those damn mutants. So, what is your alternative? Not a bad plan. Tell you what, let me go try and beat it into the elders. No guarantees, but I'll try.
With that done, let's head back to the military base in order to assault it for real now. If you're wondering why I'm not heading directly to the base yet, I just need to go and stock up on some meds in the hub first. But don't worry, I'll cut that bit out. After arriving at the base, we can use their ham radio to cause a distraction. Not wanting to miss out on the combat XP, we'll ambush them as they come by one at a time. After taking care of the lone guard left at the door, we were able to get a code to open the door. Now normally when you go inside, the paladins that the Brotherhood send with you don't come along. This was one of the options you could tweak with Fallout Fixit, and I chose to enable it. But as you will see later, I come to regret this decision. Since we snuck into the base, the alarms haven't been sounded. This enables us to avoid a lot of the combat in this section, but we still need to be careful. If we spend more than 3 turns in combat, the alarms will sound, putting the base into lockdown. The alarm only really activates the robots and the yellow force fields. To get control of the yellow force fields, we're going to hit right and fiddle a bit with this computer. This trick is a bit complicated, but here are the steps involved. Use science on the machine, use the hand icon until it breaks, then you pair it with the ham radio. This allows you to toggle the yellow force fields on and off using the ham radio. This means we will have control of the force fields even if the alarms go off. Also, when you do bring Dogmeat along, this is the way that you keep him alive. You basically trap him between force fields in order to keep him safe and out of combat. Next, we use science on the AI terminal in order to change the robot's programming so that a few less enemies spawn in the lower levels. Heading to level 2, you can see the problem I was speaking about earlier. The Brotherhood paladins aren't technically part of my party, and so I can't talk to them and ask them to move out of the way, which means they're preventing me from exiting the elevator. The only solution to this I could think of, short of restarting the entire game, was to attack and kill them. This action won't turn them hostile right here and then, but it does make me an enemy of the Brotherhood, which means I won't be able to complete the mission, since returning to the Brotherhood of Steel's base will result in them attacking me immediately. Luckily, we can skip that part by just never going back. After a friendly bit of murder, we can skip the second floor entirely, it's just a barracks with a bunch of stuff we really don't need, and head down to level 3. On level 3, we immediately make a beeline for the right hand elevator. We do this in order to avoid a fight with the guard coming up the corridor. If we had done that, the fight would definitely last more than 3 rounds, setting off the alarm. Unfortunately, the right hand elevator is inoperable, and we have to head to the one on the left. To get there, we'll have to kill the one remaining guard. If we do this quickly enough, we will be able to get out of combat and slip by without antagonizing any more of the guards. On the 4th floor, we start combat and quickly eliminate the guard room on the right. I tried to reprogram the robot to go and take out the control room for me, but I fail and I have to eliminate him too. Everything to the right of the control room in the north is completely optional. But there's a unique death sequence and an interesting conversation that I just had to include. It's a bit tricky to trigger the conversation. You have to step very carefully around the corner and one tile down to initiate it. After the conversation, actually talking to Hagen initiates a small bit of dialogue. But as you can see, that's an enormous mistake. By allowing him to shoot first, he almost murders me in the first round.
Well, I'm quite impressed. My spies told me you were resourceful, but they seem to have underestimated your talents. Guards, capture him.
I of course knew this and just wanted to show it, so let's load up and finish him off by initiating combat first. Because as Joe Abercrombie's character Logan Ninefingers is fond of saying, he who strikes first often strikes last. Now that is one horrifically bloody death sequence. And well worth it, wouldn't you say? The other reason this little detour was worth it is in the locker we find a nuclear arming key. We'll be using that key in the near future. Because the humans in the control room were psychically linked to Hagen, they will start blowing up one by one all on their own if we don't enter combat first. And where's the fun in that? I much rather prefer murdering them myself. Using a keycard looted from one of the bodies, we're able to access the security computer. From there we gain some background information on both Maxon and Richard Gray. I highly recommend pausing and reading those journals in full. A quick TLDR is that Elder Maxon was stationed here before the nukes dropped, and upon being disconnected from the headquarters, he did some pretty horrific things to the scientists here. After which, racked with guilt, he left and founded the Brotherhood of Steel in one of the abandoned military storage outposts. We already know part of Richard Gray's story, which we got from Harold back in the hub. The part we didn't know is that Richard actually survived and crawled out of the vat, and he then goes on to describing the horrific process that the FEV virus takes to transform a human being into a supermutant. But in Richard's case, he did not become a bumbling idiot, but instead gained psychic powers. The diary also hints at where Richard went next. And with that, we can initiate the self-destruct sequence of the base and make a beeline for the surface. With that, we've also reached the end of the episode, and so this is where I'll be leaving you. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. But do stick around though, because there's a nice little destruction sequence at the end. See you all next time.